All You Need to Know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business.
Good morning and happy Friday to you. Thanks so much for listening in. Here's everything that you need to know before you can start planning your weekend. This is the All You Need to Know podcast from Bloomberg Quint, and I'm Alex Matthew. Today is the 31st of July. India added a record 52,123 fresh COVID-19 cases in the 24 hours to 8 a.m. yesterday, taking the total tally to over 15.8 lakh. This at a time when the Home Ministry has launched Unlock 3, which is the latest round of relaxations to lockdown rules. The good news, though, is that over 10 lakh of the total have recovered from the virus. Let's go to the big talking point this morning, and this is something we've been building up to all week. The US economy suffered its sharpest downturn since at least the 1940s in the second quarter, which highlights how the pandemic has damaged business activity in even the world's most powerful economy. US GDP shrank 9.5% sequentially in the second quarter, a drop that equals an annualized decline of 32.9%. That's actually marginally less of a decline than the 34.5% that analysts were estimating. Personal spending, which makes up about two-thirds of US GDP, slumped an annualized 34.6%, also the most on record. Now, oil declined the most in more than a month, with demand expected to be low, particularly from the US. US benchmark crude futures dropped as much as 6.2%, tipping below $39 a barrel before recovering to above the $40 mark. US equities ended mixed, with the tech-heavy Nasdaq ending positive and the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average ending 0.4 and 0.8% lower, respectively. All three early rises in the Asia-Pacific region have started in the red. Now let's look at some of the news from back home. The SEBI has granted brokers a month's time to implement some of the new rules covering margin collections that are aimed at curbing risk and formalizing leveraged trading. The markets regulator has allowed them to continue granting margin against clients' shares through a power of attorney till the end of August, but no further extension will be granted, according to a circular that was released yesterday. The Finance Ministry is considering an amnesty program for residents with illicit gold as part of an effort to crack down on tax evasion and to cut dependence on imports, according to people with knowledge of the matter. Under the proposition made to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the government plans to ask people with unaccounted holdings of the metal to declare it to tax authorities and pay levies plus a penalty. Now, market research firm Nielsen India has come out with a report that says that India's fast-moving consumer goods industry is expected to register no growth in sales in 2020 on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, lockdowns, and the resultant demand destruction. At the start of the year, the research firm had pegged industry growth at 9 to 10%, which it later revised lower in April to 5 to 6% growth. In other news, the government yesterday imposed restrictions on imports of color TVs, which is a move that is aimed at promoting domestic manufacturing and reducing inbound shipments of non-essential items from countries like China. In global news, President Donald Trump has raised the notion of delaying the next US election scheduled for November, suggesting without offering evidence that mail-in voting will be subject to fraud. In a tweet just minutes after the country's GDP print was announced, Trump claimed vote by mail is rife with fraud, saying that the election should be delayed until, in his words, people can properly, securely, and safely vote. A delay in the elections may be tough to get, though, because under a law signed by President John Tyler, the presidential election is held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. it cannot be changed without an act of Congress, which would be difficult to pass in the democratic-controlled House. And with that, it's over to Hormuz Fatakia for the trade setup for the day in India. Good morning, Hormuz. How are we looking at the end of the week?
Good morning, Alex, and to all our listeners as well. Markets ended the July series on a somber note. However, despite the 1% fall on Thursday, both the Sensex and the Nifty gained 8% in the July series. A sector that outperformed during the series was IT. The Nifty IT index gained 25% in the July series. The extent of the outperformance was such that the next best sectoral gainer was Nifty Auto, which gained 8.2%. 4 out of the top 5 Nifty gainers during the series were IT stocks. The fifth was Reliance Industries. And speaking of Reliance Industries, the Nifty Big Boy reported earnings after market hours on Thursday. Revenue and EBITDA were below Bloomberg consensus estimates, while an exceptional gain of over 4,000 crore rupees contributed to the boost in its bottom line. Margins, however, were above street estimates, while a sharp drop in crude prices led to an inventory loss. Reliance's telecom vertical Jio reported earnings that were largely in line with what the street had estimated. Torrent Pharma is among the non-Nifty names to have reported numbers last evening. Operational performance was steady, with lower expenses and input costs contributing to the expansion in EBITDA margins. On to today's action then, and the final trading day of the week will see 5 Nifty companies come out with numbers. State Bank of India, Indian Oil Corporation, Tata Motors, UPL and Sun Pharma will be reporting earnings today. Sun Pharma's earnings will be in focus after its US subsidiary Taro reported weak results on Wednesday night. But despite that, the stock ended over 3.5% higher on Thursday and at a 52-week high. Some non-index names reporting numbers today include Dr. Lal PathLabs, Thyrocare, Godrej Agrovet, JSW Energy, Motilal Oswal, Tata Chemicals, amongst a whole host of others. Now let's turn to some other stocks in focus. Lakshmi Vilas Bank has extended the exclusivity date for the proposed amalgamation of Clicks Capital and Clicks Financial Services into the bank till September 15 due to delay in due diligence. Dixon Technologies will be in focus after the government put imports of TV sets into the restricted list. Importers will now have to apply for a license from the DGFT for the same. Wipro has been awarded a multi-year contract by UK-based Metro Bank for IT solutions. A whole host of marquee names have checked into AU Small Finance Bank in some large deals that took place on the stock on Thursday. Westbridge AIF has acquired close to 2% stake in the company, while other buyers included the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, Reliance Mutual Fund and Morgan Stanley. Before I sign off, both the Sensex and the Nifty have gained for 6 straight weeks so far. However, the streak is under cloud, with both of them being down nearly 1% on a weekly basis as of closing on Thursday. You can get more details on all the stocks that I just spoke about in our All You Need to Know copy on BloombergQuint.com. And with that, I wish you a happy Friday, a happy weekend, and it's back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Hormuz. And as always, thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great day and an even better weekend.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you could listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Paisa Vaisa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma. Or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.